Hey, and welcome to another episode of Raw Chatter. I am your host, speaking Vicky Midwood, Health Optimizer and the Addiction Eliminator. Back to a solo episode today because I wanted to share this. It's to do with what has been coming up in the last week or so. And as you know, I like to share stuff as it comes up in real time because I think if it's happening for people around me, then potentially there's something energetically going on. And if you can benefit from what I'm sharing, then that is what I would love to happen. If you are not already following me, I would love you to do that. So if you are watching on YouTube, please subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, hit that follow button. It would really, really be helpful so that I can get more and more people aware of just what we are sharing and some of the amazing normal people who are not necessarily celebrities, who are talking about what they do and how they can help themselves and how they did help themselves and others to feel better. Now, today, this has kind of come about on the back of an experience that I had on Friday. And it was great. I went to an in-person coaching, business coaching event with somebody who, and I did share the picture on LinkedIn and on Facebook because I have been looking for a new business coach. I definitely believe that a coach needs a coach. I have over the years had health coaches and business coaches. Sometimes my business coaches have also been health coaches. Sometimes my health coaches have also done business, and sometimes they've been separate. But I always try to have at least one coach who is helping me to step up and be the best that I can. And I genuinely believe that when the pupil is ready, the teacher appears. And I do think that happens because I've been so fortunate with some of the incredible coaches that I have worked with over the years. Two who I'm going to specifically name because they have both been very poignant in my journey. One being Dax Moy and the other being Cliff Wilde and his wife Marta. So technically three people. But I was looking for somebody else and I didn't know who. And so I saw that this person was coming to the UK to do an event for the first time. And so I jumped at the chance to do it. So after much rearranging of client calls and appointments and classes and stuff, I managed to make sure that that day was free for me to be able to go. Now, obviously, for those of you who know anything about in-person events, the show-up rate, and especially when it's a free event, can be very, very hit and miss. You're lucky if you get sort of 1% of people showing up who actually signed up. And her event was no different because she's not well known in the UK. If it had been an event that she was doing in a country that already knows who she is, it would have been a different story. But number one, she's not well known, but also number two, it was a Friday. And we still have a culture here in the UK, don't we, of people kind of winding down and preparing for the weekend and not necessarily want to commit to doing something on a Friday, just in case they get a better offer or they want to knock off early. So the event was 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. And yes, it did run for that length of time. And it's interesting. What I want to share ties in with a lot of stuff that I hear and what I see going on around, but through normal conversations with people, but also for some of my clients as well. And one of the things that we need to help ourselves to recognize is that ultimately we are all different, but we are also very, very similar because we are human beings. And there is no one who is so uniquely unique that whatever they're thinking or going through has not happened to anybody else ever, ever, ever in the whole world. But when we are going through things, boy, does it feel that way. Does it feel like you are the only person who has ever felt the way that you feel and has ever experienced the stuff that you're experiencing? And we're just not. And that's not to diminish how it feels for you when you're going through it. But it's also to put it into some kind of context, because a number of people that I work with have absolutely gone through some serious suicidal ideations, including myself. And many of them have actually made attempts, and I have too. And so it's not something that I'm immune to hearing about, and it's not something that I find incredibly shocking, which I know is sad to say. But when you are suffering from anxiety, when you have disordered eating or an eating disorder that literally is all consuming, takes over your life, when you feel that you're in a position with addiction, whether it's drugs or gambling or to any kind of activity or behavior that literally is ruling every decision you make, every thought you think, just your whole life, it does often feel like that is the only way out. Now, why am I talking about this? Well, at this event, it's a coaching event. So this lady is a coach. And it's important to say that coaching is not therapy. A number of therapists choose to become coaches and do an excellent job. And a number of coaches then may go on and get extra qualifications and become therapists. And I was absolutely a coach. And then I did a specific eating disorders therapy certification because I didn't want to be a psychotherapist or a psychiatrist. I did do my addiction and psychology masters, but I didn't complete it. And I'm not going to go into reasons why. I've shared it multiple times. If you want to find out, you can look back on some of the episodes where I talk about my story. But I knew that being a therapist in the traditional sense was not for me. And I didn't want to jump through all of those hoops, but coaching absolutely was. Now, to be a coach, you have to be, or learn to be, very confident in your language and your boundaries and just how you are going to help people. Now, one of the things I genuinely believe you cannot be as a coach is you cannot stroke somebody's ego and basically delude them into the way that they are behaving, thinking, and feeling is okay if they came to you for a specific outcome, because they are normally going to just be doing and thinking and feeling the same stuff that they've always been doing and thinking and feeling, and they've come to you to change that. So it's not okay as a coach to tell them it's okay. It is your place to help them to understand why and what potentially they can work out that they could do to help themselves, because ultimately we always know what we need to do, or we've got an inkling. We might need more information or details of exactly how to go about doing it. But the majority of people are not stupid. And if you're coachable, you do know where you're going wrong and you do know what needs to change. Usually where we get stuck and why we turn to a coach is we don't know how. We don't know how to do that. We don't know what steps to take, in what order to get the results. And that's where a coach can come in and can help you. But you have to be coachable. And that means you have got to be able to handle somebody being completely, totally, unashamedly honest with you. And if you cannot take that, if you want to argue back, if you want to be right, if you have a yes, but I'm different, then you're going to struggle in a coaching relationship and you're going to struggle to make the changes that you say you want to say. Now, this episode, I can't get my words out, is entitled Be Careful What You Want, careful what you ask for, because you just might get it. Can you handle it? And that is the question. Now, in this event, there was an opportunity, a huge opportunity for somebody to be coached. And everybody's hand went up who thought they wanted to be coached. And I'm just going to go off on a tangent here. I went to a great event with a lady called Esther Stanhope, who was doing a talk. It was actually in the Really Helpful Club, which I was a member of for a while. And she did a great talk that basically was saying, if you get any opportunity in a room full of people to talk about what you do, stick your hand up and take it. Now, certain things stick with you when you go to events, and that stuck with me. No matter what, even if your head's telling you, I don't know what to say, or I'm going to be embarrassed, or I might splutter over my words, or whatever your head chatter is, just stick your hand up anyway, right? Because any opportunity to get yourself known, to get visible for free, and to talk about what you do, take it. So I put my hand up, as did a lot of people in the room. And don't forget, there were 600 people who had signed up to this event, and 60 turned up. As I say, first event in London, and also it was on a Friday. So 60 actually really wasn't bad in terms of the expectation based upon the sign-up rate. So I would say over half the room put their hands up. So a gentleman was picked, but then one particular lady was so wanted this opportunity that she actually stood up on a chair and kind of started jumping and waving. And it reminded me, and I don't know if you've seen, who hasn't seen the film Shrek, but if you haven't seen the film Shrek, the very first one where Donkey jumps up and down and goes, pick me, that in my head, I couldn't see her, she was behind me. That's what I was kind of visualizing. And so she did. Now, often what happens in a scenario like that is that the coach will deliberately not pick that person. But she said, you know what, you obviously do want this, so I'm going to pick 2 people instead of 1. So she went on to start coaching the gentleman who she chose first. And her coaching style, and she says it, so she won't mind me repeating it, you're either going to really like it and be on board with it, or you're going to be really repelled by her and how she coaches and what she does and how she goes about it. But regardless, she's going to coach the way that she coaches. That is who she is. That is why she's got Global Coach of the Year. And she's not going to in any way change that or apologize for it, because it works. It gets results. And so if you put your hand up and you know you're in the room with somebody like that, and she'd already said to us right at the start, some of you are going to really like how I speak and how I come across, and some of you are not. And by the lunch break, a lot of you may not come back, right? She said, I don't care, because ultimately I am who I am. So she'd already said that. So in my head, you need to be prepared for what is going to happen. And so she coached the first gentleman, and she's very straightforward. She just will ask questions, right? And doesn't want around the houses, up and down the garden path answer. This is a question, give me the answer. And if you have not answered the specific question she'll ask, she'll let you speak, but then she'll say, and now can you answer the question? So he did this a couple of times, and then he twigged he just needs to answer the question directly, and fine. And basically she knew straight away what his obstacles were and what ideally he needed to do to help himself. And he agreed, right? And he said, yeah, I'm embarrassed and I'm ashamed, but you're absolutely spot on, right? So he was humble, he was coachable, he took it. And then we move over to the other lady who, as I say, she was made herself known very clearly. She wanted this opportunity. She'd seen how the gentleman had been coached. She'd seen very clearly what had been said about answering the questions directly, not going around the garden path, etc. But when she was asked questions, she didn't give direct, very clear answers. And so the questions were repeated, just like they had been for the first gentleman, give you an opportunity to get into the flow of it. And you've got people watching you. There's an awareness of that as well. So she's not being any different with this lady as she was with this gentleman. However, as the questions went on and the lady started to get upset, and she was basically being told that what she was doing, it wasn't surprising that she was no further on in her business. Now, she was starting to argue against it and starting to put up her defenses and give reasons, i.e. excuses, as to why. And they were basically being squashed as just that, BS. Reasons and excuses will always be the thing that we will keep returning to as humans, because it's what we do, to defend our behavior patterns. And our behavior patterns up until this point have gotten you to where you are right now. And you are the person who took those behaviors. You are the person who made those decisions. So actually, it is your responsibility that you are where you are. Now, I'm not saying that sometimes the decisions that we've had to make have not been easy. And we've oftentimes been put in positions where the decision basically was kind of a forced one. For many of us, we know what that feels like. But for a lot of decisions, especially when it comes to running a business and whether you're deciding to set a business up on your own and be an entrepreneur or be a business owner, a solo business person, that is your choice. And if you're going to make that choice, then you have to hold your hands up and recognize that you may not be great at business. You're probably going to be really good at the thing that you are offering, which is definitely where I sit. But I am not amazing at business. Why? Because I haven't trained in business. And that's why I go to a business coach, because that is not my area of expertise. Health and well-being, how humans function, how the body and the mind work together, how your gut, your nervous system, your hormones, your epigenetics, your programming all help to get you to where you are, and the beliefs and the habits that you have that are maybe now causing you some serious issues. That's my area of expertise, but business is not. And the same story for this lady. She's excellent at what she does, as she was explaining. But the lady who was coaching her was not asking for an explanation. She was asking specific questions which required a specific answer. And when she pointed out why the stuff that she'd been doing wasn't going to work, she wanted to argue, to the extent that she ended up in tears and decided to leave because she felt she was being picked on. Now, for people watching, obviously, in a situation like that, where you see somebody in front of you basically breaking down, getting more and more upset, tone of voice getting louder, shouting over the person who is trying to help them to see that they are trying to help them, it's not the most comfortable. Now, I was interested in how I was feeling, and this is where my head takes me, because I've done so many similar events and seen not quite this, but not unlike this, where somebody has wanted to be coached, and yet when they've been coached, they've just ended up wanting to be right, have an argument, and I hate this term, but kind of played the victim role, in that they genuinely do believe that their reasons and excuses are why they are where they are. And they're not able to see that those reasons and excuses are, and then hanging on to them so vehemently, so passionately, so loudly, and getting so upset about them, is actually the very thing that is stopping them from getting to where they want to get to. And the truth of it is, many people don't want to hear the truth. And this is something that you can talk about, and we've had multiple conversations with my daughter and I about this, and her argument very clearly, and I absolutely agree with it, is if you're asking somebody's opinion about something and you don't want to hear the truth, don't ask. Now, I love that. Now, my daughter is on the autism spectrum. She's self-diagnosed. She recognized about 3 years ago that she kind of ticks most of the boxes, and she's learning how best to manage her life and deal with that. And she's doing extraordinarily well. And she recognizes that there are certain things that other people do that she just literally looks at them and just goes, why? Why? And this is one of them, right? So to her, it's just like, if you can't handle a truthful answer, do not ask the question. And I kind of agree in this scenario, if you cannot handle being coached and discovering why you are where you are and what the problems are, don't offer or don't stand up and ask to be coached. Because if you can't handle the truth, then who are you actually really deluding? Now, she would go so far as to say, being lied to. Who are you lying to? I know for a lot of people, just that word is triggering. If you turn around and say somebody, you're a liar, they hate it, right? Because nobody likes to think that they are a liar. When we ask people what are their values and they say honesty, great. So many people have that as a value. But yet when you ask them about lying, and particularly, and I'm going to, in inverted commas for those of you who are listening, little white lies. In other words, reasons, excuses that we are taught often by our parents to use to save somebody from feeling a certain way, it's still a lie, right? And what we're actually doing by saving somebody's feelings, by telling a little white lie, is we're starting to tell ourselves it's okay to not tell the whole truth. But the problem with that is, if we know we're okay with lying to other people, guess what? Makes us more okay with lying to ourselves. Because when we keep repeating these little white lies, we keep reinforcing them until we actually are like, maybe they are true. Because what you keep on repeating, you will believe as true. Whether it is or not is irrelevant. That's how your brain works. It thinks it's helping you, right? Because you keep saying the same stuff, therefore you must believe it, therefore it must be true, therefore it must be important. So the brain does, you know what? I'm going to help you. I'm just going to make sure that you keep on remembering that and keep on following through with that, because obviously you need it. It's obviously important and you believe it. So let's keep reinforcing it. So your brain is only ever trying to be helpful. So when you are a user, and I work with people who are addicts and they use. Now, when I'm saying user, I mean what I'm talking about really is they're using the solution to what they feel is their problem, right? And the solution is maybe starving yourself, maybe looking at yourself in the mirror and pulling at your skin and telling yourself how horrible you are. Why is that a solution? Because you think it's going to inspire you to continue to do what you think is the way to get the look and the body that you want. Even if it's not, you keep doing it. Therefore, your brain kindly reminds you to keep on doing it because it thinks you need to keep on doing that to keep you from dying. And we're going back to, what does the human brain ultimately want you to do? To not die. And therefore, what you keep on thinking repeatedly, what you keep on doing repeatedly, your brain very handily logs and goes, okay, she does this multiple times a day. She thinks this multiple times a day. This must therefore be necessary to stop us from dying. So I'm going to ensure that she keeps on doing this and she keeps on thinking this. And this is where we buy into our own bullshit. This is where we get in our own way, because our brain is just doing what our brain is programmed to do to help us to not die. And your brain doesn't care if that's giving you a great quality of life, if it's helping you to feel fantastic about what you see in the mirror. It doesn't care. It just knows that you keep thinking this stuff and you keep doing this stuff. Therefore, this stuff must be important. Therefore, I'm going to ensure you keep thinking it and you keep doing it. And when you want to change that, you have to understand that you've got to get honest. You've got to get honest, and you've got to start to recognize that actually, even though you may be in your head telling you stuff, your body is definitely telling you a different story. And we need to listen, because your body is your unconscious mind. It knows what you actually need. Your head has too many voices going on, and it's gotten used to telling lies. And this is the bit that this lady didn't want to hear, that her excuses were just that, excuses, because that was too real, too blunt to hear. What she was being told is basically, you've just wasted 3 months achieving nothing. And that's why you're no further along in your business. Now, if she wants to get further along in her business, she's going to have to accept that that is the truth so that she can move on, because this is key. If you definitely want the stuff that you say you want. And you're not saying you want it just because you think you should or because other people have that expectation of you. Because I tell you what, that's never going to work, because unconsciously your body knows, right? And you're going to sabotage whatever. And I'm not going to go into that word now, but I've got a whole podcast on why actually self-sabotage is not self-sabotage. That's a whole other episode, not going to go there. But my point is, you're going to stop yourself unconsciously from doing and thinking the stuff that you need to. And there's a number of reasons why we do that. We literally do feel safe and secure doing the stuff that we know. And anything that makes us unsafe and unsecure is, as far as your brain is concerned, a threat, and threat equals death. And remember, your brain is just trying to stop you from dying. So when we start doing something that is not comfortable, that is different, and I'm not going to say out of your comfort zone, it's just uncomfortable, it's not familiar, right? It's unknown. You're not going to enjoy it to start with. You're just not. And it's going to take effort to continue to do that thing. And that is the bit. And effort is what we need to help people to start recognizing is the key to getting what you say you want. Putting in effort. Now, effort doesn't mean making stuff as hard and as complicated as possible. That's the problem. As humans, we equal, or we kind of connect or associate effort with hard. No, effort's just effort. Right? Whether something is hard or easy depends upon the amount of effort you've already put into mastering that thing. Because when you put in consistent effort, things become easier. And then when you get to the point where you can do them in flow, that's called mastery. Right? And a lot of us have mastered stuff that is not helpful to our health or to having the business that we say we want. That it's very known and it's very familiar. But to start with, it was not. Now, we have got a lot of patterns of thinking and behavior that we're not even aware of because they've been there since we were tiny tots. And this is the stuff that a coach can help you to unravel and to recognize that a lot of this program is not even yours, and a lot of the beliefs that you have are not even yours, but also to recognize nothing is going to change without action. And what a coach is there to do is to help you to take the right action at the right time, in the right order for you to get it, what it is that you say you want. Which brings me full circle to the title of this episode. Be careful what you say you want. Because if it's not really what you want, and if you can't handle the truth, you're not going to get there. You can wish and hope as much as you like. You can manifest and do all of the stuff. But if you're not actively taking action consistently, and you're buying into your own excuses and reasons, i.e. old beliefs based upon the past, you are literally your own biggest obstacle. Now, hands up, am I, at this moment in time, my own biggest obstacle to having the business that I say I want? Yes. And therefore, am I working with this lady so that she can basically call BS on the stuff that I'm saying and doing that's not helping me? Yes. Do I expect the next couple of months or so to be flipping challenging? Yes. Am I probably going to end up throwing my toys out of the pram and stomping my feet like a little toddler having a tantrum? Probably. Right? Am I probably going to want to throw my computer through the window? I would have no doubts that I will probably want to do that on multiple occasions. However, if that stuff is the effort that I need to put in to get what I do absolutely want, to be able to serve thousands more people than I currently am, to have the health that they want and the freedom from the addictions and the hidden addictions that are stopping them from having the body, the health and the life that they want and the business that they want, then hell yes, bring it on. Am I excited? Yes. Am I terrified? Yes, in equal measure. But my point is, I'm 56, right? We never stop growing. We never stop learning. And the difference is, are you able to handle the truth? Because if you cannot, you are not going to ever get what it is that you say you want. Because only by accepting the truth and then going, okay, so now what? Now let's go with that growth mindset. What do I now do? And allowing yourself to be led by somebody who's been where you are now and has got what you want. Let them help you to make it easier to put in the effort that it will take to help you to shift your mindset, your attitude, your beliefs, whatever is required, and to ultimately take consistent action. And this is where being accountable is so, so important. This is why having some clear steps to do by a clear time initially is key. And I know with people that I work with, when I ask them to do things initially and they don't start doing them immediately, I know that they are letting their own excuses get in their way. The ones who do exactly what I ask them to do, exactly the way I ask them to do it in the first 7, 14, 21, 30 days, pretty much going to get the results that they say they want. The ones who are not doing it because this reason, that reason, they're the ones where it's going to be more challenging. And then we have to help them to look at how can they. Not at why, not let's not stay stuck in the why I can't, but let's look at how can you. Because unless you can take those first initial steps and start being consistent with them, you're not going to be able to get any further, because the foundations, the initial stuff is key. And that's going to be the same for me. I know that some of the initial stuff, some of the initial foundations of how to run a successful business, I know I don't have them in place. I'm just not sure which ones are the most important ones for me to put in place and how to do that so that I can start to run with the other stuff that I need to do. And that is what I'm excited about. So I am ready to hear some truths that I won't want to hear and I won't be delighted to hear, but I will also know are absolutely true. And if I continue to do that stuff and fool myself, then it will be a wasted opportunity. And that is not something that I am signing up for. So I hope this episode has been helpful for you folks. I'd love to know if you have had any ahas or any takeaways, because ultimately consistent action is key. Right? What you do on a daily basis determines your future. So what you're doing right now today is going to determine how you're going to be and how you're going to be feeling in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years. And if you don't like how you're feeling now, then now is the time to do things differently. And that's where coaching comes in. So if you do feel that you want to reach out and have a chat with me about what it looks like and feels like to coach with me on your health issues, whatever they are, whether it's gut issues, whether it's anxiety, if it is an alcohol addiction, or if it's an eating disorder or disordered eating, if you suspect that you have ADHD and it's just making life difficult and miserable, any and all of those things, I can absolutely have a conversation with you about. Because all health is about the whole body. There's not a mental health issue and a physical health issue. Everything's connected together. And if you're not feeling great physically, chances are you're not thinking that brilliantly either. If you're mentally struggling with brain fog and you're struggling with pain as well, then chances are we need to look at just what is going on in terms of what choices you are making on a daily basis from a lifestyle point of view. How are you feeding yourself? How are you sleeping? How are you breathing? What's your posture like? What's your movement? Who are you surrounding yourself with? What are you watching? What are you listening to? All of those things, no matter what the health issue is, those are the foundations. And we need to look at all of those. What is your nervous system doing? What is your programming? Because without looking at all of those things, we're not going to be able to help you to get in place the foundations that are absolutely vital to you being able to let go of some of the reasons / excuses / lies that you are currently allowing your life to be led by. So if you do want that, there is a button in the show notes that you can click to book a call with me. No pressure, folks. This is just a chat. This is just a chat to see where you're at, how you got to where you're at, and if you are actually coachable. And if I am the coach for you, because I'm not for everybody, just like this lady is not for everybody, I may not be your cup of tea, because yeah, I will call a spade a spade. I'm a northerner and I will drop truth bombs. I may do it in a slightly different way to what she does, but pretty much it's the same. If you can't handle the truth and you don't actually want what it is you say you want, I will not be for you. So on that note, I'm going to leave you with this. We only have one life as far as we know, and one body. So please look after it, because it is looking after you. And if you haven't already liked and subscribed, give us a thumbs up. Please do. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care of yourself. Bye-bye.